Well, hello there, and welcome to my kitchen table, a place in most homes where we can sit with family and friends and just talk for hours. The chat at my kitchen table is usually true crime, so if that's what you're looking for, then you're in the right place. Right, let's see where we're off to today. We are off to Bangor, or Bangor, as we call it, in Liverpool. Bangor is a cathedral city and community in Gwynedd, North Wales. For those who don't know, Wales is actually a part of the United Kingdom. We are England, Northern Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. And Wales, like Scotland, is on the mainland island. Northern Ireland is on an island, for want of a better phrase. So it's a cathedral city in Gwynedd, in North Wales. It's the oldest city in Wales, and it has a population of around 16,358, or thereabouts. Landmarks include the Bangor Cathedral, Bangor University, and of course, the I'm only joking, Garth Pier, which was built in 1896, and I have walked the length of that pier more times than I care to remember. From the pier, you can actually look out onto the Menai Straits, which leads in from the Irish Sea and separates Anglesey from mainland Wales. It's beautiful. If you're from Bangor, this always used to tickle me when I was a kid, and it still makes me smile. If you're from Bangor, you're known as a Bangorian. Sorry. Right. If you're ready, take a seat right there, and I'll tell you a story. Neil Foden was, still is, a well-known figure in the Welsh education system. He's a former union official who often appeared on the TV news. He'd been head teacher at Ysgol Friars since 1996, and his disciplinary style, or disciplinarian style, and controversial opinions kept him in the news. He did it for attention. He's a narcissist. Now, if I remember correctly, my mum was actually evacuated during the Second World War from the city of Liverpool to Wales. And she told me that Ysgol, as in Ysgol Friars, the school that he was head teacher of, Ysgol means school. So if you like to learn something new every day, you've now learned a Welsh word. Ysgol, school. Detective Constable Gemma Jones of North Wales Police was an acting detective sergeant in September 2023 when she was actually brought into this investigation. She was told a victim had made allegations that morning about the well-known head teacher. She said a child had made disclosures that she'd been, in her words, in a romantic relationship with Neil Foden. She said the child making the allegations, who came to be known as Child A, had shown adult text messages between her and Foden. The texts related to sexual acts. This is a child. The child also showed an adult a photo of herself with Foden in his car. Detective Constable Jones and her colleagues launched an investigation, codenamed Operation Stone, and Foden was arrested and taken into custody. He was actually arrested in his office at the high school where he was headmaster, or head teacher. Woohoo! I'd have loved to have been there. Throughout the police interviews, he gave no comment. He literally sat there and as they were asking him questions, go, no comment, no comment, no comment. They had this guy banged to rights, and this is a case of why the hell didn't he just hold his hands up and say, okay, you got me, instead of putting those poor children through a court case. In interviews, Child A told police officers Foden would take her in his car to remote, rural locations that he found on Google Maps. She said, one time it was so remote, she could see bales of hay out of the car window. They were in the middle of a field. She said hugging and kissing progressed to intimate touching. He also indulged a fetish he had. She said he would encourage her to drink lots and lots of water and then press on her bladder to make her urinate. When police actually searched Foden's computer, they found he'd made online searches about a urination fetish. I wonder why. Foden warned the girl not to tell anybody what they did, telling her she must take it to the grave. Police found that she'd actually Googled terms such as, I think I'm being sexually groomed. What do I do? And how to tell your parents you were groomed. Detective Constable Jones said the girl's bravery in coming forward was pivotal to the investigation. From the disclosures that she made, she almost gave others the confidence to be able to speak out, she said. In the coming weeks, as news broke of charges against Foden relating to Child A, a further victim, and then another further victim, and another further victim came forward. All describing a similar pattern of grooming to win their trust by their head teacher. With one girl, he pinched her in her thigh and stroked her back under her clothing. Because while he was winning their trusts, he'd hold their hand and he'd hug them, and then he'd start touching them. And touching a girl underneath her clothes on bare skin was just the start. He would also discuss sexual activities and the loss of their virginity. Then, in October 2023, another victim came forward, known as Child E. Child E was, again, vulnerable, but for different reasons, said Detective Constable Jones. She's quite a strong character, she said. Again, she was pivotal to the case, because the offences that she disclosed were from 2019. So they were looking at a different time period. Foden began grooming and intimately abusing Child E in 2019. He had sex with the victim and sometimes restrained her with a belt or lace handcuffs before abusing her. Foden would refer to this girl as his sex toy. The victim also joined Foden when he travelled away to events and stayed in hotels with him. All Foden's victims were described as vulnerable in one way or another. Excuse me, frog in my throat. And they were targeted by him for this reason. DC Jones said he was considered to be a powerful and influential person in the community that he saved. I think it's clear that he took advantage of that position in abusing these children. Neil Foden was 66. Well, he is 66. And as I said, he was the head teacher of North Wales High School, Ysgol Friars in Bangor. But he was also short-term, strategic, what they call a super head of another high school. And he was convicted in May 2024 of 19 charges committed between 2019 and 2023. After Foden was convicted of grooming and abusing 4 teenage girls, one parent came forward claiming he could have been stopped. The former friend of Foden had actually contacted him and arranged for him to have unsupervised one-to-one sessions with his daughter to give her a hand, to help her. This parent said the lack of action against Foden was unforgivable. During Neil Foden's trial, it was made known that concerns were raised by teachers in 2019 about his conduct with one of his victims. However, these were not investigated by the education authorities, and Foden was later made a superhead of another school, like I've just said. It was like a reward. The court heard that Foden's arrogance was such that they believed that no one would stand up to him, and the victims wouldn't be believed if they came forward. When a witness found him with a victim, he brazenly kept his hand on the girl's leg, as if it was normal, everyday occurrence. Nothing wrong here. That made it clear how he viewed the witness and himself. She was a child. The judge said he probably got a thrill out of a degree of risk-taking and cared little for the opinions of others. He called Foden a domineering, bombastic character. Isn't that a great word? Bombastic. With a dreadful secret. A sexual obsession with young girls. Vulnerable girls. Teenage girls. Gwynedd Council said it was appalled by Foden's crimes and would carry out an independent review of its handling of the earlier concerns. You know I like to have opinions. How can a council do an independent review on itself? It can't. It's not independent, is it? Anyway, Foden denied all the offences and claimed his victims were lying. Well, all of them. Saying he was unable to have sex due to a medical condition. Yeah, right. He was found not guilty on one charge relating to a 5th child. The jury of 7 women and 5 men delivered their verdicts on the defendant after a 3-week trial. During the trial, Neil Foden's victims described a pattern of grooming and intimate abuse that included explicit text messages and references to a fetish. When police searched Foden's car, they found a pair of lace handcuffs in his boot trunk with traces of his DNA and that of one of the girls that he abused. So they were all lying, were they, Foden? I don't think so. At the sentencing hearing, two victims had their powerful victim impact statements read out by junior prosecuting counsel Sarah Badrawi, while two others, read their own. The victims described how Foden's abuse left some of them experiencing panic attacks, and that his crimes are like a shadow that follows them. One told the court, "What he's done is evil. I feel we have all been exploited." Each said their life had been changed by the horrific abuse they suffered. One said, this is one of the ones who read out her own, she said that she wanted him to hear firsthand the impact he had on her life. As they spoke, Foden didn't even lift his head up because he couldn't make eye contact with these girls because he knew what he'd done. Foden was convicted of 12 counts of intimate activity with a child. 2 counts of intimate activity with a child in a position of trust, causing or inciting child intimate activity, attempting to arrange the commission of an intimate offence with a child, explicit communications with a child, possession of indecent photographs of a child, and intimate assault of a child. He was sentenced on Monday, July 1st, 2024, which was just 3 days ago, to 17 years in prison. Now, for me, that's 40 years short of what it should have been. But that's just me. God, I'd love to be a judge. With Judge Rhys Rowlands calling him a depraved bully, the judge also said that Foden's abuse was planned and quite shameful behaviour, repeatedly taking advantage of girls to satisfy your depraved sexual needs. Foden was stone-faced in the dock as he was handed his prison sentence. He'd also been served with a sexual harm prevention order for life and a 10-year restraining order prohibiting Foden from contacting his victims or going anywhere near them. Foden will serve 2/3 of his sentence inside and the other third out on licence or on probation. It emerged during Foden's trial that several people had expressed concerns about his closeness with child E. This was the one who came forward last, the one who he was abusing from 2019, the one that used to go to hotels with him, the one whose leg he kept the hand on. So it emerged during Foden's trial that several people had expressed concerns about his closeness with child E in 2019. Although, would you believe it, their concerns had been for Foden's own reputation, not the safety of the child. Got a bit there, sorry now. Anyway, these concerns were actually raised with the head of education for Gwynedd at the time, Graham Jackson. He told the court that he'd passed the concerns to a safeguarding office, but was told, as no specific allegations had been made, no formal investigation would take place. Instead, He was instructed to speak to Foden on the phone, reminding him to keep an appropriate distance with young people. He said Foden told him the concerns were overdramatic and assured him that there was nothing going on. He believed him. He told the court he had no written record of any of the exchanges apart from the original email he'd received. At Foden's trial, the judge criticised the council's failure to investigate, calling it very concerning. Foden was later asked to be the strategic head of that other high school. So that one parent who came forward with his concerns, saying that it could have been stopped in 2019, was right. It could have been, and it should have been. He believes that if the council had investigated, Foden's offending would have been stopped. That man's daughter ended up having one-to-one sessions with Neil Foden over a number of months. Luckily, she was not one of Foden's victims, but her dad now feels the head teacher might have been planning to groom her. He said he's haunted by the fear of what could have happened. He said it's a lot easier for me to think it would never have happened. But the reality is that the chances are, if he'd had any inclination, it would have. He said, I've spent far too much time thinking about it, in fear of how far it would have gone had Childline not come forward. I think his daughter had a lucky escape. An independent child practice review will now be held to establish what lessons can be learned. The chair and vice chair of the current Board of Governors stood down in the wake of the trial. In a letter announcing their resignation, they said the trial verdict was a significant milestone for them because they didn't know it was happening. Gavin Jackson said in a statement that safeguarding was a key priority for him as head of education, a role he left for personal reasons shortly after Foden's arrest. He said he would cooperate fully with the independent review, adding, in rare circumstances where concerns were raised directly to me, I reported them to the appropriate officer, whose advice I would follow, as I did in this case. He said, my thoughts are with Foden's victims and all those who have been affected by his actions, as are mine. In the UK, Childline is available 24 hours a day. Their phone number is 0800 1111. In the States, it's 1-800-932-0319. Sorry, 0313. Again, available 24 hours. If you're a child, you think you're in trouble. You're not. You're not in trouble. You haven't done anything wrong. If you think you know a child who may be having such problems, give them the phone number. Tell them to call. Both of them are toll free. If it's in the UK or the States, those two numbers are both toll free. They won't show up on phone bills if they don't want the parents to know. Yet. Alright, so lend a helping hand to a young one. Thank you so much for allowing me to tell you this story. Thank you so much for listening, most to the point. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. And remember to smile, because you never know who needs it. I've been Sue, TTFN.